Hello and welcome to Rich Media Design Productions video tutorial on adjusting images. Now, before I begin, I'm just gonna briefly tell you that this is basically a comparison and an overview. It's not an in-depth, but I thought it might be interesting to go over some areas that you might not be aware of, and I think are very important that you know these things when working with images, because it's about kind of like preserving that image and also being able to be free to experiment or work with and not destroy the original image. So let's get into this right away here. Okay, well, here we have an image that I've actually pulled down from the internet. It was interesting. I thought it might be interesting to look at, and so I brought it in. Okay, I'm going to pull this off, and then I'm going to tell you where I got it from. First of all, if you look at the layer on the right hand side here, you'll see that the background layer is this image with a lock. Now, you could actually duplicate this, unlock and duplicate it, and then you can work on the image without destroying the background image. But there's another way around it. Okay, for example, if you started to work on the adjustments, and any one of these things in this menu item under adjustments will affect the background image that you have present on your desktop. So here's the way around. Okay, you go to Windows and you pull up, where is it at? Adjustments. Jeez. Okay, and you see the window come up. Okay, now what you can do is kind of run your mouse over each one. You can see one says brightness and contrast, one says levels, one says curves, the other says exposure, variance, hue and saturation, color balance, black and white, color, photo filter, channel mixer, invert, posterize, threshold, gradient map, and selective color. Okay, we're going to talk about all these things, and then we're going to experiment a little bit with them, and that way you can see how actually cool this is. Okay, I'm going to click the first one. This is brightness and contrast, and when I click it, look what happens over here on the right hand side in your layers column. It adds a layer on top of your background image, and it allows you to adjust the image that you're looking at there on the desktop. And if you move these sliders in and out, you can see that you can actually adjust the brightness and contrast here for that image. Now, down below here you'll have a different type of menu. One says reset adjustment defaults. In other words, you can actually reset everything back to 000. That'd be up here. This one is to actually reset, but without moving these things up here. Okay. The other one is the eye, so that you can't adjust anything. In other words, you're actually seeing the background. Okay, you're not seeing the adjustment. Okay, then this one affects everything. If you had any layers in between these two layers here, it would affect everything in between. So if you press that, you'll see a little arrow come down here, and it'll affect or make the other layers respond to that top layer, basically, is what they're saying. Okay, we're going to quit this real quick because we're going to go over these rather quickly. Okay, back here, you notice I just trashed it down here. Okay, I'm going to go into the levels. You can actually mess around with the levels. Okay. You see what happens to the picture when you move these levels around. Okay, now if that's what you want, that's what the effect that you're looking for, then fine, you save it, and there you have it. Okay, I'm going to delete this, go to the trash can down here, delete. Next one is curves. Okay, so you can go ahead and mess around with these curves. See how I grab that in the middle there, and then I put another one here and bring that down. I can take this one and bring it over here and put one here and actually straighten that one out a little bit more and bring that up, bring that down. Anyway, that's curves. Trash it? Yes. Okay, go on to the next one. This is exposure. Okay, now you can fool around with this too, kind of see what it does. You know, it kind of works like the curves, but it's more about light, you know, when you're working with a camera. Okay, now you see these eye drops. One is a black point, one is a medium point or gray point, and one is a white point. Okay, the black point, if you put it anywhere in a dark area, it'll adjust to that area. So let's look for a real dark area. Let's say this is a dark area, and it'll adjust to it. So it darkens that area. Now let's go to the medium point and press here, and it darkened that. And then the white point, if you wanted to make everything adjust to that area, then you could look for a white area here and press that, and then it'll brighten up those areas. Or if you press it down here, look what happened. Okay, anyway, we're gonna drop this one and go on to the next one. Trash can it? Yes. Okay, next one is Vibrance. Okay, and the Vibrance, I said variance earlier, but it's Vibrance. Anyway, I just remembered, if you took off certain saturation and some, you can actually make it look pretty cool. I mean, I kind of like this one right away without having to mess around with it too much. Kind of mutes the colors, and then you can add more color and things like that. Now, you know, if you're working in printing, or if you're working on the web, this, you know, oversaturated colors really don't work well, and I wouldn't oversaturate colors to any large degree, because you can run into trouble, especially when you're printing. In fact, if you look up here in View, they have a thing called gamut warning. That, if you put that on or you select that, it'll tell you when you're oversaturated. So I guess it means something. Okay, we're going to go on and delete that, and go on to Hue and Saturation. Again, the saturation comes in, and it, you know, you can actually undersaturate or oversaturate, saturate, and then you can work with the colors. You know, green becomes red, red becomes blue, blue becomes yellow. All this. Okay, and lightness, you can soften it. And there you have that. Okay, now all this is to tell you that you have some experimenting opportunities. And if I were you, after you've learned, basically you already learned what you need to learn, and I'm just going over the experimental part of it with you, because the main thing was to learn that you don't have to use the image adjustments up here, because it could destroy your original, and we want to kind of experiment here. So anyway, going on to the next one, and again, this is a color balance. We can oversaturate colors, or change colors rather, not saturate colors, but you can change colors. That's kind of cool. It's kind of surreal. Okay, and going on to the next one is black and white. Now, this one just hit it right off the bat. It turned your photograph into a black and white, and basically what it does. I mean, you can actually fool around with it and say, okay, no, I want a tint here, and then, you know, add some stuff to it, you know, fool around with that, get the greens up. It's still working with colors, but in those colors you're getting this tint that you could actually work with. Now this looks like a nice frameable picture, you know, nice black and white with a nice sepia tone to it. Anyway, we're moving on. Next one is photo filter. This one will add filters to your photograph. You know, like photographers will use filters on their cameras to get certain effects. Now, let's say there was some job that you were working on, and you wanted a certain filter, and you forgot to get the filter, put it on your camera, and you shot the picture. Well, this is your opportunity to change it. Well, let's say you were working for a company that wanted a filter put on a photograph that already existed, and they really didn't have any plans for it. Well, here is your chance to add a filter, and you can see the difference that it adds to it. Now, right here it says density of 25 with a magenta filter, and we could intensify that, add more magenta to it, so forth. Okay, moving on. You have all kinds of other filters. You can actually go and do a color filter, straight color filter. See what I did here? I clicked that, brought up the color selector, and I can actually move this to blue, greens, yellows, reds. Anyway, you get the picture. Pun intended. Okay, next is the channel mixer, and basically it works pretty much the same way, except this one actually takes individual colors and either augments it by the dial or diminishes it by the dial. Okay, so let's say the blue, we can add more blue, take away the blue, and you have the red and the green left. Okay, that's pretty close to the way it was before. Anyway, get the picture. Again, pun intended. Okay, we're moving on here. This is the invert. Now, actually, basically what we did was took the color picture and inverted it. This looks like a negative. That's what it does. Basically, all that it does. Okay, move on. This is posterize, and posterized your image. And right here, if you look at the levels, it turned it into a four color posterization. So that you're only getting 4 levels of colors. So the closer you get to 255, the more smoother and true to the color it is. The further down, like down to 2, you're actually down to 2. Actually, you see more colors in 2, but it says 2. We'll have to take the word for it. Anyway, you see red, blue, greens, yellows in there, but it says 4 levels. So, I mean 2 levels. Anyway, you get the point. You can actually see the posterization effect, and basically that's what you're looking for when using that particular adjustment. Okay, toss that one away, and we're going to go to threshold now. Now this one is really interesting because I'm sure you've seen these kind of pictures before, and it basically will take a photograph and turn it into a black and white posterized image. Toss that one, move on, and we have a gradient map. Now here's the interesting thing about the gradient map. If I click here or here, I will bring up the gradient selection window. Here I click in there and I got the gradient selection window, and all your gradients will be in here, or the ones that are pre-adjusted. buy Photoshop to for you to use. You can also make your own. Down here is where you make your own. We'll get into that some other time if you don't know how to use it. It's a very important thing because a lot of people use gradients in their images. Okay, this particular adjustment is actually putting a gradient over your photograph. It looks like black and white, but it basically is affecting your photograph in a way that only allows black and white to be seen. If I click on the red and green, you can see what happened there. If I click on the red and the yellow and blue, you can see what happened there. The red, blue, and yellow, the blue and yellow, the orange and yellow, and so on. Here's one using. I see this as being like a chrome effect, but it's kind of overused now, so I don't consider it a true chrome effect. Okay, here's the rainbow, true rainbow, and it basically turns your photograph into a rainbow. Anyway, that's that. Eliminate. And the last one is called the selective color adjustment layer. Now, this one basically took you into an area where you can actually take selected colors and adjust them. You can go to the red, you can go to the yellow, and start, adjusting the colors so that you can have a photograph that maybe matches or complements the outline ad maybe for that you're working with. Anyway, that concludes our little demonstration today, and come back and we'll do some more. I'd like to kind of get you involved in some of the really essential little parts of Photoshop, things that you may be afraid to touch because you're afraid to mess things up, or afraid that you'd get into trouble by experimenting, and basically I'm encouraging you to experiment. Just make sure that you save your original if it's that important, so that you won't lose it, and then use maybe a copy of it to experiment with. Anyway, that's it for today. We'll see you next time. Bye.